So I can't get into my official speech without first saying how happy I am to be back in Fort Frances and to acknowledge Howard Hampton, your MPP. Howard has done great work for your community and for your riding. He has been a solid MPP, and he's been a solid leader, and he's someone who has taught me a great deal as he's been handing over the reins. And he didn't hand over the reins until I became elected leader. And then he started gradually handing over the reins. And he's done a great job in terms of his leadership of our party and in terms of his representation of the people of Fort Frances, as well as the larger riding, of course, of Kenora-Rainy River. And so, Howard, thank you so much. All of the work you've done. And for all of the knowledge and wisdom that you've passed on to those coming after you. So I don't know about anybody in this room, but I certainly think it's an exciting time in the province of Ontario. Would you agree? It's an exciting time. I think Bill was alluding to the fact that it's an exciting time in the province of Ontario, because in a matter of weeks, we are going to be in an election campaign that is going to change the lives of the people in this province. And you know, the choice that we as New Democrats put to people is going to be a pretty simple one. There's a fundamental question that we have to ask. We have to ask ourselves, do we want a status quo that continues to leave ordinary families falling further and further behind, or do we want the kind of change that puts you first? Now, we can choose to keep Dalton McGuinty's no strings attached corporate tax cuts that don't do anything but benefit big corporations with no strings attached. Or we can actually start to give families a much needed break. We can continue to charge senior citizens up to $1,800 a day just for a stay in the hospital, or we can actually start tackling the challenges that are facing caring for seniors. We can actually get to the next stage of implementing Medicare in this province, so that those challenges of caring for seniors are our top priority, and we actually start getting to solving them. We can continue to let good, value-added jobs leave this province, or we can get much, much smarter about how we deal with our natural resources to make sure that they're giving jobs, particularly to Northerners in Ontario. I think this time, people around this province, in every area of Ontario, are ready for real change. And so that means there's a lot at stake. There's a lot at stake in this election. You know, when I think about my own father, he came to Canada, he came to this country looking for change, right? Trying to make a positive future for his family. And he did that many decades ago. And in fact, he came here at a time when our economy was booming in Ontario. He came here at a time when you could literally walk up to the plant gate, apply for a job, get that job, and keep that job for the rest of your life. He had a good union, a decent pay, and he was able to maintain a good quality of life for his family. Both of my parents worked very, very hard back in those days. And they actually experienced something that many people were experiencing at the same time. They were experiencing a sense that you could actually have a positive change that would make things better for the majority of people. That's what they were going through back then. They believed that the majority of people could have a better life. Now, that was many years ago, right? Ontario was a manufacturing powerhouse back then, the engine of Canada's economy back then. Things are a little bit different now. It's been a rough ride for Ontario families, and I don't need to tell anybody in this room about that, because the rough ride happened way sooner in Northern Ontario than it did in most other parts of the province, right? Between November of 2008 and May of 2009, 250,000 Ontarians lost their jobs. And those good jobs have been replaced by the kind of jobs that don't provide a good quality of life, right? The kind of jobs where benefits don't exist, where you can't even get full-time hours, let alone a pension. And so when you think about the shift, the change that's created such difficulty for everyday people in this province, you look to what the government has done to respond to that. So what did our government do to respond in that time of crisis? Dalton McGuinty, Stephen Harper got together and cooked us up the HST, right? That was their response to the struggles of Ontario families and Ontario workers. A response that basically shifts taxes off of the biggest corporations onto the backs of everyday families at a time when they could least afford it. Do you know that after inflation is taken into account, the average Ontarian is earning about the same wage as we earned back in 1991. Families are feeling the squeeze. People are feeling the squeeze. People are getting by with less. Now, there are some exceptions to that rule. Ontario's top CEOs are making more money than they ever have in Ontario's entire history. Did you know that by the time the CEO is at his coffee break at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the first day of work, going out to get his coffee, he's already made more money than the average worker will make in that entire year, right? Now, if that doesn't tell you that we need change in this province, I don't know what does. And so that means for us, we've got a lot of work to do, right? That means for us, we have a lot of things to accomplish in the next couple of weeks as New Democrats. But I have to say I'm very, very excited. I'm excited about what we've already been able to accomplish. I mean, let's face it. Our mighty group of 10 MPPs actually drove the agenda in the legislature at Queen's Park in the last couple of years. It was New Democrats that were putting on the agenda the realities, the challenges of everyday people in this province. We drove that agenda. And I'm pretty proud of that, pretty excited about that. But not only did we drive the agenda in Queen's Park, but we have been engaging communities all around this province. And I have been to all kinds of nomination meetings, from one part of Ontario to the other. And people are coming out in droves. They're coming out in droves because they're excited about the possibility that people can actually be put first for a change in Ontario politics. And so our opportunity is a great one. We know that it's time for change. We know that it's time for the kind of change, though, that puts people first. Not just any kind of change. Not just changing the old parties in power for the sake of changing the parties in power. But changing the party in power to put people at the top of the agenda for a change. And we know that if we work hard and if we organize, we can give families, we can give people in Ontario a much needed break. Right? Do you believe that? We can give people a much needed break. We can bring forward, we can actually bring forward the next stage of Medicare. And we can start tackling the challenges of caring for senior citizens in this province. We can actually make life more affordable. The others tell you we can't, but we can. We can make life more affordable by taking the HST off of home heating, taking it off of hydro, and starting to take it off of gasoline as well. And we can get smarter about creating good, decent jobs. We can do that by putting in place a Buy Ontario policy and by making sure that our natural resources are processed here in Ontario instead of lining the pockets of people in other jurisdictions. Putting bread on the table of Ontario workers, Ontario families. And there's other things that we can do as well to make life more affordable, to make life better, to make this the kind of province that we can all be proud of. We're going to be unveiling our Northern Platform in a couple of weeks. And I'm really glad to be here today, and I'll be glad to be back in Northwestern Ontario when we unveil that platform. I truly believe that together we can make this province a better place. We can make this province a fairer place. We can make this province the kind of place where Northerners get the respect that they deserve, and Dalton McGuinty gets the pink slip that he deserves. But that kind of change starts right here in this room tonight. That kind of change for this riding of Kenora-Rainy River starts right here in Fort Francis as you choose your candidate who's going to bring forward our message of change over the election campaign. There's no doubt in my mind that we can win this riding, that we can maintain this riding, that this riding will once again be an NDP riding. We will win this riding. We will win it with whoever it is that you nominate as your candidate tonight. Why? Because New Democrats, we are the real change for Ontario. Thank you very much.